Under the soil of New York, treasures are hidden. Beneath the fields and forests of New York lie forgotten relics waiting to be rediscovered. Every signal from a metal detector has the potential to uncover a lost story. In 2017, a metal detectorist unearthed an incredibly rare 19th century pocket watch signed Montandon Geneva. This opened a new chapter in the history of one of Switzerland's forgotten watchmaking dynasties. Yet, this was not the first Montandon watch to emerge from the soil of New York. In 1877, newspapers reported the discovery of a skeleton of an unidentified man in Broome County. Beside his remains lie a silver pocket watch signed L. Montandon Locle, the only clue to his identity and the center of a mystery that remains unsolved nearly 150 years later. Join us as we explore the fascinating intersection of metal detecting, pocket watch archaeology, and historical research, where forgotten objects buried beneath our feet reveal extraordinary stories from the past. Welcome to the channel. So welcome to the channel. Now this evening I wanted to share this story with you. This is quite fascinating. One of my viewers is a metal detectorist, and back around in 2017 he was metal detecting in the area around Pawling, New York, the state of New York, and he unearthed this old pocket watch relic. And this is really a rare object indeed to have found this. Now, when I saw these pictures, I was very surprised. I was able to read the inscription, which is signed Montandon Locle, and very interestingly, one can still read the serial number of this piece, and this is 12573. Now, the architecture of this pocket watch, and it must be stated that there is no movement remaining, there's no dial remaining, no crystal. These have all been erased by time, as this was buried in the ground for 150 years, more or less, perhaps more. But this pocket watch, the architecture certainly speaks to us of pre-1860s. This has a very large round ball of a pendant, and it's a key-wand key-set piece. But this was a silver pocket watch, and we have all of the, what one can clearly see that this is a no later than 1860, but most probably this could even be as old as far back as the late 1840s, but I would put it around 1850, 1855, around in there, but certainly before 1860. And this is a very rare object. Now, the individual that I associate with this pocket watch, because there are other pieces that this more or less fits within his fabrication, I do believe that this was a Louis Montandon of La Chaux-de-Fonds. This is Louis Auguste, and this certainly the serial number does fit in this range. Now, that may not always align. This could be a serial number of another artisan. However, with all of the characteristics, I do believe that he was applying these Montandon Geneva in some of his later fabrication. Now, certainly, we do know that he was generally signing Louis Montandon Geneva, or L. Montandon Geneva has been discovered pieces, and some of his older watches we do find a singular Louis Montandon à Genève, which appears to have been quite early, but I do believe this is by him. Now, that we do see that there are various stamps in this piece, and indeed there are initials for a ponceau maker, and these are very difficult to see with any degree of certainty. However, these do correspond with those that we find in the dust covers and some of the cases of Louis Montandon, who was signing Louis Montandon Geneva. This is an LM in a oval, which was one of his maker's marks when he was making, in those cases where he was fabricating the dust case or the watch case itself. So this is a very fascinating relic. There's not much left of this, but we do get a lot of information from it. This is indeed a very rare piece. To find a Montandon watch in general in the ground. This is like basically striking gold, because one would expect more American watches rather than a rare Swiss brand. Yet this was retained for a very long time, hidden in the ground of New York, the soil. So we have this. Now, there is a second issue, a second case, which I would like to share. And this also revolves back to New York. And this is a case of a pocket watch that was found on a skeleton. So let us look at the facts. Now, this case which we are about to talk about, this is essentially a cold case. The identity of this individual has not been apparently found out after all of this time. So it would be quite fascinating if someone out there is interested in forensic historical cold cases. This would be definitely a very potentially rich case to probe. Now, this happened, this second watch find was approximately 163 miles away from the other New York watch that was found. This is from a newspaper from 1877. This is from the Binghamton Times, I believe it was. And this is a very sad cold case. Now, it's entitled A Horrid Discovery. And I will read some of this for you because it's rather fascinating, the detail that is provided. But this individual probably took their own life, which is very sad. However, a lady discovers this perfect skeleton of a man in the woods, his clothing and a watch. He has a knife, which probably did the deed, as this reads. The coroner was summoned. Now, yesterday morning, Mr. William Stanley and his wife, Mrs. Phoebe E. Stanley, came to this city and notified Coroner Richards and Chief of Police Johnson that they had, on the previous day, Sunday, discovered in the woods on their farm the perfect skeleton of a man, partially covered with clothing, and the remainder of his clothing lying nearby. Mr. Stanley, who is a well-to-do farmer, about 37 or 38 years of age, resides upon and owns the old Stanley farm, formerly occupied by his father, Penaja Stanley, or Penaja Stanley, one of the early settlers of this region. The farm is situated on the Colesville Road, about 7 miles from this city, and is in the town of Kirkwood. So this is found in Kirkwood, New York. The Colesville Road leaves the north bank of the Susquehanna about 4 miles from the city near what is known as the Amory Place, and winds in a northeasterly direction towards Pickering's. About 3 miles up this road is what is called Stanley's Hollow, the post office name, however, being Brookvale. Immediately upon being notified, Coroner Richards and Chief of Police Johnson started for the locality. A Times representative, accompanied by Edmund O'Connor, Esquire, immediately followed, overtaking the coroner on the road. Upon reaching the residence of William Stanley, the party was conducted to the spot where the remains were found and where they were still to be seen, having been but little disturbed. The Stanley house stands on the south side of the road upon a hillside. Back of it and at the base of the hill runs a small creek. Crossing this creek in a cleared field, a lot upon which buckwheat had been grown this year is reached. Crossing this lot and another cleared field, another hill rises sloping to the north. This is cleared for some distance, the woods commencing about halfway up the hill before reaching the woods. A brush lot some 8 or 10 rods in width is passed. Just beyond this and near the edge of the woods, the remains were found. The woods are a light second growth, the heavy timber having been nearly all cut years ago. Directly under and a little northwest of a large soft maple tree, the skeleton was seen. The skull had been moved somewhat from its original position when we reached the spot, but the remains of the bones were all in place, showing the position in which the deceased had lain when life left him. He had evidently selected a comfortable spot in a little gully on the side of a hill, 1.5 of 2 feet deep, and with that portion where the head had rested somewhat higher than the feet, the head was a trifle south of east, and the feet a little north of west. The body had evidently been lying partially on the right side, when the face somewhat drawn up and the knees bent in a natural position. The lower limbs, or rather the bones of them, were encased in a pair of black striped pants, and were evidently so when death came. The bones of the feet were in their natural position inside the shoes, and were so loose as to be easily poured out upon the ground. Not a vestige or trace of stocking could be found, although the other clothing would indicate that the deceased was not likely one to go without them. The shoes were Congress gaiters, sewed with little elastic left in them. No trace of clothing could be found above the hips except the portion covered by the pantaloons. Not so much as a shred of cloth or anything which could indicate what had become of it could be found. When first discovered, the bones of the right arm and hand lay as if it had been extended at right angles from the body. Near the right hand and embedded in leaves, nearly down to the surface of the ground, a knife was found, with the blade fully opened and in such a position as to lead to the suspicion that it was held in the right hand at the time of death. On the opposite or left side of the body, near the shoulder, a small round pocket-looking glass was discovered, apparently as though it had been held up to look into it and then dropped. The bones of the left arm and hand were lying as if the arm had been partially thrown back and more nearly parallel with the body. All the bones of the body were entirely free from any trace of flesh, muscles, or skin. Those encased in the pantaloons and shoes were equally clean with those which had been more exposed, except that they were discolored. The skull was somewhat bleached and entirely free from any marks or fractures. In the head, 3 of the front teeth were missing, but 2 or 3 teeth were found near the remains which had evidently dropped from the head or the jaw in handling. The double teeth in the head, as all those in the jaw, were filled with some kind of composition, with the exception of one. This one, which may lead to identification, was an eye tooth on the left side and was filled with gold in a peculiar manner. The filling being rectangular in shape and extending diagonally across the face or front of the tooth. In addition to the 3 front teeth, which were gone from the head, the 3rd tooth from the back on the right-hand side was also missing. This is the most important part of the forensic portion of this article. But the in this area of the body, they find, and this is under a crushed hat that he had, a watch. This was a double or hunting case, silver, one of Swiss make, a detached lever with silver cap, and sweep second hand. It was engraved on the dust cover L. Montandon. The reporter then records that the serial number is 68653. Now, this publication was from the 10th of October, 1877. Now, according to the coroner, the owner had a black frock coat, a matching vest, Congress gaiters, gold-filled tooth, a canine tooth, multiple dental fillings, and a Swiss pocket watch. This seems to be consistent with an individual who was a traveling salesman, commercial agent, clerk, bookkeeper, merchant, a school teacher, or a minor professional. Definitely not a worker. This pocket watch, and this actually, now the coroner has gone on in this article to say that he believes that this skeleton lie in this location undisturbed for at least 2 winters. So we're already pushing then back into at least 1865, perhaps 1864. Now, the serial number is dating from the early 1860s period. That I would put this certainly between 1861 and 1863. It was probably not a new watch when this individual had it. So it could be circa 1860. So once again, we have a slightly, perhaps this is slightly newer than the Montandon Geneva piece that was discovered, but these are almost synchron at the same time. These watches, and they have probably been imported into New York. And there was a representative on Maiden Lane that was realizing the sales of various different Swiss watches, including many Montandon watches, Montandon Fairs, H. Montandon watches, and these were probably Henry Montandon of La Chaux-de-Fonds, who occupied this business, and there does seem to be connections, genealogical connections, that this was an individual who had a closer relationship to Julien Gallet, and so the father definitely had some kind of connections, it would seem. We see these Julien Gallet marks in some of these watches for case making. But we have this very interesting cold case now, and we have this watch. So this is this El Montandon watch is most clearly by the serial number El Montandon Locle. This is not a Geneva signed watch, and this would have been Louis Frederick Montandon. So these are 2 different Louis, these pocket watches. And they were both very favorable on the export market at this time, that they were selling a lot of their watches to the U.S. But this is really an interesting cold case because we have so much information from this. That it was found in October of 1877. The skeleton had been in situ for several winters, and the watch was probably not new. So this is very important for our understanding of chronological dating in these serial number sequences, that we know that this cannot have been later than certainly the mid-1870s, but it is probably most likely that this watch was perhaps a dozen years old, maybe 10 years old, but certainly the serial number sequence does support this first half of the 1860s. So the watch was probably about 10 years old when this happened. And once again, it's not exactly clear why this individual took this drastic step. It's a sad occasion. He appears to have found a very comfortable spot, and anyways, the next step was his remains were found several years after this. But this does give us a lot of very significant dating information as to the sequence of these pocket watches. And when one is dealing with these antique Swiss pocket watches, one of the most difficult things is ascertaining a very precise dating sequence, because unlike the American production of the 1860s, 70s, and 80s, where they came to have very precise production figures, the books are showing exactly when these serial numbers were fabricated, etc. With Swiss pocket watches, we generally do not have such a luxury, because many of these houses were smaller ateliers, smaller makers, and they were making these quality pieces. However, they were too small, and their record keeping has been lost, or in some of these cases, they would not have had a straight serial run, that they would purchase bulks of various different serial runs by a subcontractor. It was the more affluent of these producers that could ask for a very specific range. So, but this is very interesting pocket watch archaeology, and literally, this is literally archaeology in this case, as we have these watches being almost swallowed up by time, but we're able to talk about them, and we are able to get a significant amount of information based on this. So these taken on their own, these incidences would be of very little import. But if it's somebody who is concentrated on the holistic observation of a brand or a dynasty in this case, then we are able to receive information that supports the bigger narrative and is we can provide, indeed, by the genealogical side. When we know a concrete maker, we can get very closer to the actual dating of an object. So I hope this pocket watch archaeology is found interesting for you. And if you have any questions or if you have any inspirations, please share them with the channel. We have had a very fortunate outreach by new subscribers, and that is a very nice phenomenon. But these are the topics that this channel is interested in, and indeed, horology is a subject which I think historical horology is something that people who are interested in should really make the deep dive and be prepared to, if they're very interested, start to pursue their own research on perhaps a brand that they're connected with in some way. But this is just enrichment for everyone when we share this information. But I hope this topic was of interest to you, and I look forward to your comments. Thank you, and I wish you a very nice evening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if this information is in any way touching your heart or you find any use of it. So thank you for your attention. Bye-bye.